Hi.
How are you doing, my man?
I was like, spending like an hour to fix the lights,
Well,
you know.
that's you, a perfectionist.
Always. I'm a Virgo, you
Me
know,
too.
we
Two
always
Virgos.
we're always looking for the perfection light.
So how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. It's been like a while already. I'm in Ibiza since February,
Yeah,
and well, of course it's locked down as well, but it's quite crazy because of course I live in the countryside, so
yeah,
you don't see people, and then if you go to a supermarket you just go to the next one, next door one,
yeah,
which is super small, and
yeah,
you don't see people, so you don't get to you know like properly
yeah,
leave the lockdown as a you know
yeah.
but
We're
it
um, we're asking questions about how you're dealing with lockdown later, but
all right.
I want to know where you started, where your background came from, right? And I think a lot of people want to know because you're a successful fashion designer, an amazing DJ, but I want people to kind of know the background of how you got into dance music and then veered off into fashion.
All right. When I was a kid in back in Patagonia, back in the 80s, um, we didn't have any television at the time.
Mm.
And then suddenly, also because the economics were pretty bad, uh, which is still today are bad, but at the time there was no TV. And then suddenly, um, we have for so many years the military repression for so long, and then finally in 1983 the TV came up, so we finally had a chance to see out of out of Patagonia. And then I remember that I started like watching Fame, remember that TV show?
We're showing our age here now.
I mean, come on, you know. So I was like really into that, and dance and music and all these kids, creatives, and doing New York in the 80s.
Yeah,
And then I wanted to be a dancer actually.
I remember
That
actually
was
you showed me a picture when we were in
yeah.
Paris of when you were dancing in the club.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that was years later because,
yeah,
of course, music and dance was always my passion. Um, so I just started working when I moved to Italy, in 1990. I started like working in clubs. So that's kind of like the music, the way to, express and dance, and, became a PR, bringing people to the clubs. And then one day, you just like are like, I was like 16, and at the time, I was living in this very specific area of Italy, which is Rimini and Riccione. I was only 1 hour away from there,
yeah,
and that was the mecca. That was the main place for the house music at the time.
yeah, yeah.
So we could go there. It was only 1 hour, train. So escaping from our families, and try to meet new people out of your small circle in the Provence of Italy. And then it was crazy because at the time, many people like Jean-Paul Gaultier or Marc Jacobs, they used to go to that area because they used to produce their collections
Yeah.
um, nearby Rimini, and then you go to Cocorico at the time, and then you see Jean-Paul Gaultier, and maybe you were wearing like a Junior Gaultier T-shirt, and you had like the blonde hair because it was the Madonna moment, and then Jean Paul, he's like, he sees you, he's like, hey. So it was cute. That's why I kind of like started with fashion as well.
Yeah.
And then, working at the time in clubs, was fun because the fashion was always like, the center of our performances.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I remember telling you that story actually when I first played down in Rimini. I was playing Magic Mondays,
oh, wow.
which was a beautiful night. You know,
Yeah.
you obviously remember it. And I remember
Adecos.
I couldn't check, yeah, Echoes, yeah, and I couldn't check into my hotel room because someone was in it. And then they finally gave me the key. And as I was going into the room, Jean Paul Gaultier walked out of the room, and he was like, "I'm so sorry. I had a really heavy night at Echoes the night before," and I was like, "Yeah, I was playing." It was
Where was it? Remember the year?
it was probably I'd have to ask Julio, but I think it was like 2003, 2004, more at the end. You know, the end. I wasn't there in the 90s. It was maybe even 2005, but Rimini for me was a special place, a super special. Like you were talking about, for me when I first went to play in Italy, Rimini, Cocorico, Echoes, you know, them places were so special.
Yeah, on Sundays there was Pasha, not even Pacha, but Pasha. Pasha was amazing on Sundays. It was crazy. Yeah, I mean, I have like such a beautiful memories, you know, and everything started there.
Yeah.
And then step by step, I moved to Milan because that was like, you know, kind of the center of fashion, of course. And you know, coming from a small town, and, you know, of course you met people during like the parties and, you know, and nights and after hours. We used to cross properly from one place to, like, you know, driving 3 or 4 hours just to go to Umbria for an after hour and dance for like 3 hours, maybe working, because we were bringing like people like with us, like 10 cars with us, you know.
That's the one thing I had this massive admiration for Italy, that in the UK, if it's further than 15 minutes, you're like, no, I'm not going. But in Italy, they will drive from Verona to Bologna, and then Bologna to Milan, and Milan down. You know, there was a real, like, it was a destination. You know, the clubs were always in really secluded places, weren't they? They weren't in town centres. They were in the outskirts of towns, weren't they? The best clubs.
Yeah. Otherwise, you know, it was actually, there was an area properly, like, you know, a specific area where all the clubs were, which were the hills of Riccione, Cattolica, Misano, all the which I love. I play in those places. I play at Peter Pan, which I love, really, because, you know, Maurizio Monti, Lalitz, which was the PR and vocalist of Magic Mondays at Echoes, he moved to Peter Pan. So, and I was, you know, we make some parties. And he's also on my documentary that is out on Amazon. There is an interview of Maurizio talking about me back in the 90s, being a PR without getting any money, because, you know, I was just bringing people. But that was, you know, like,
that was a big, for me personally, coming to Italy and playing when obviously I'm Italian, but when I first started playing there, the MC was such a big part of the night.
Yeah, but quite annoying though. That's how I started, actually. You know, learning how to sing, going to, you know, to singing classes and stuff. Yeah, it was big, especially in those places, which I hate today. Of course, you cannot have a guy talking over the, you know, the music.
But there's something romantic in the early days that worked. It worked.
You know, at the time, with the type of music, with the type of drug the people were having, you know, with the moment they were living, we were living, you know, it makes sense. You know, it was those guys were driving the audience to another place, you know, through the music. So it was kind of like an inspiration, actually. Back in the days, and then of course with the you know, with changing the times and everything changed, the music changed, and of course those guys today are like, of course it's a job, and of course any kind of job has, you know, but it's quite funny to see them like still today, like trying to.
I think when we're talking about the guy at Echoes, he used to have this crash helmet on. And it used to look half a mirror ball. It was a mirror ball that was on his head, and he used to it was just, for me, coming from the UK, I was brought up in Italy, but then I moved to the UK quite young. But coming back and seeing, apart from the only thing in the UK is drum and bass that has the MC, but seeing the way that the minute they came on, they just controlled the crowd, it was insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
there
now,
were people with like a lot of charisma, you know, and and I remember something that was big in the 90s in that area also was like the performances, like experimental theater, like, you know, all those group performances like Teddy Bear Company or the Mutoids, which are the mutants that were in Sant'Arcangelo di Romagna, which is a beautiful small village, and people from Holland and England, they were you know, they build a properly comuna, like a properly village of mutants, you know, making their crazy robots and machines, and they're still today there. You can see them, you know, and you can also go and have a visit if they're in the mood. You can go on YouTube and type Sant'Arcangelo di Romagna and then Mutoids. And you see like documentaries about them.
Well, after this, I'll definitely go and check it out. So I read something, and we never spoke about it, but you worked at one of the most famous clubs in Italy. Was it Magazzini Generale when you were like 15?
Yeah. That was the first club that I started in Milan. I was part of this group, like a PR group, which were at the time they used to, you know, close down the Stazione Centrale, the central station, and make like the Dolce & Gabbana party. And they were super big and super creative. And they asked me to work for them at the time when I got to Milan. I was super young, 21 years old. And so I started at the door of Magazzini Generali. You know, it was super cold in winter, you know.
Were you the door picker? Were you the guy that...
I was the one picking up everyone, like, you know.
So you could decide who came to the club.
Yeah, and I had like 100 free entrances and 100 drinks in one head and another. So, you know, and depends on who was coming. I was like, you know, like.
So you were like the one they had to go to. And this is probably one of the places that you met a lot of the fashion designers as well in your early days, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I started properly building my mailing list, which, you know, became super important in Milan, because at the time, you know, Milan was quite bored, you know, nothing was new. Everything was like the same, the industry, same people all the time. People didn't like to party with other type of people because they were weird, or like they were gays or lesbians, or they were coming from another type of society or whatever. And then from Patagonia, I got to Milan, and then I put together everyone, you know, and I met that, you know, I make something very special for the town, because I put everyone together, and everyone was the same, even if we're not the same, of course. But we were like in the same space, sharing music and you know, and dance, and you know, it was very special, because really at the time nobody liked to mix, you know. And then I think I had to say one of like my first real job in Milan was with Mr. Armani, which is, they asked me because I was organizing parties at the time, so all the cool kids, and then someone contacted me from Armani and said, hey, we need you for a party. It's the 25th anniversary of Mr. Armani, and you know, we need your people. I know you're doing cute parties, like cool parties, and we need that type of people. So it was funny to see, you know, the drag queens with Tina Turner or Sophia Loren, and then you see the you know, the graffiti artist, and then you see, I don't know, someone else from Hollywood, you know, whatever. So it was the beginning of like a new thing in Milan. So that's how I started my own company, and I built a properly agency, like.
So it was kind of like you had like, it was the kind of Studio 54 era for you guys at that period, wasn't it? Where there was no boundaries, there was no, you know, everyone accepted if you were gay, if you're black, you were white, you were like, it was just how it should be, wasn't it?
Yeah, but then you have a role, you know, and you have to kind of like educate like the rest of the people, not because you want to like I don't know, like just being like such an asshole and say, hey,
no, I know,
but it's about, you know, hey, wake up, you know, there is someone that thinks different than you, and or it comes from somewhere else, and you know, and at the end, you know, music brings people together like us, you know.
That's the one thing I've always said about my industry. I've loved how I've met, you know, I've managed to meet people like you, and I've managed to meet people like Carl in the industry. I've managed to meet the most creative and open-minded people, and I think that's the beauty with dance music and electronic music, that we don't have this narrow-mindedness. We like to expand and be free, and I've always said that we come and play, and yourself as well. Every week people work 9 till 5 and they work their arse off, and then they get to the weekend and they just want to enjoy themselves and they want to just have fun.
Yeah.
And that's just so
How
important.
good is that? How good is that?
It's true though.
So simple, you know.
That's why every week when I go to work, well, I can't now, but I always smile because I know that that person has worked their arse off all week to come to where we're at, and they're coming to see us play. You know, and so
talking, you know, about Magazzini, because that was a very important place for me. You know, it was the beginning of Milan for me. So everyone used to come there. Everyone, just like everyone. I remember, like, you know, I was at the door, and then you see Roshi Murphy, you know, queuing, just waiting for her. And she was like, and she was at Magazzini Generali performing the week before. You know, somehow she was still in Milan or whatever, and she came to dance. And then next to her was David LaChapelle. And then, you know, and you introduce them. And then, you know, it was so beautiful. And then Mr. Domenico Dolce came up and said, I have a job for you. And then from the night I started working in the day, you know, started as a PR and organizing events for them and all that.
So that's where your fashion sort of apprenticeship started at Dolce & Gabbana.
Yeah, like the big thing, yes. But, you know, till then, and in the meanwhile as well, I used to work for, like, you know, independent magazines, independent projects, always supporting, you know, the new designers, new magazines, and I was doing also a magazine at the time, which was I was the the fashion editor or whatever, and then I became the editor-in-chief, you know, after some years, which was one of the best experiences that I had. And you know, after Magazzini, it was crazy because the agency was like blowing up, like was just crazy because all the events in Milan were mine at some point.
So basically, you were a promoter. That was
I was a PR organizer. So I had a production company working with me. You know, I had I could choose all the, you know, I used to create, do properly the creative direction of the events. And also bring in the people, because that was the main thing, to, you know, having me. And then, of course, I was very interested in music. And then, of course, there was, at some point, all the clients start to trust you. And then they understood, and I explained them that, you know, if they wanted me at their party, to be part of the party, they should trust me and you know, let me choose the artists, the DJs, the bands, the venues, and you know, properly making a properly you know, story.
So you kind of were the party. That's what it is.
Because then I started DJing. I started DJing as well, so I was bringing the people. I was DJing, and then and at some point I was like, "Fucking hell, that's a little too much."
That's interesting, because for me and a lot of people, we know you as a fashion designer. That's what we know originally.
And also, I'm not a fashion designer. You know, I'm a creative director. I have a design team that I drive. But people,
but I noticed this when I DJed with you in Paris, that you knew everything about music. You were very passionate about music, especially with me. We were speaking about music. A superb DJ. So I knew that there must have been some story. It wasn't like you just turned up and started DJing in the last 2 or 3 years. You had a history.
Yeah. People think that, you know, I just started you know, oh, he's a, you know, a cool designer. He wants to be a DJ. But, you know, I started playing 15 years ago already. So after Magazzini, let me tell you the story. Okay, Team Magazzini, there was no social medias. So I was the social media. You know, I was the one connecting the club with the people, the clients, to the customers. Because, you know, when someone like Gucci asked me to do their perfume launch, you know, it's just like that, just crazy. Anyway, a lot of things. One day, this is a funny story. Versace called and they want me to do a party, and I was like, amazing. Who's the artist? And then they say, it's Prince live. And I was like, what? And it was funny because I started like drinking. I never drink. I was so nervous, and I started drinking. Half of my people were outside because it was just, full. And then, I was just drunk. I was like, yeah, whatever. It's Prince performing, leave me alone. So I quit the door. I didn't give a shit of anybody waiting, people screaming.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like.
No, that's right. That's right. Well, that's pretty impressive. So Prince, the way, yeah, like it's like nothing. But how old were you when this happened?
I was like 23.
Yeah, which is
24.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 15 years ago.
Wow.
Almost.
What I wanted to sort of like backtrack and kind of. Actually, no. I'm gonna keep this question for later. But the first one I'm going to ask you is if I was to ask something about you that no one knows, what would you say? What would there be one thing that no one would know?
Maybe people doesn't know that I'm a Buddhist since
Right.
since 26 years already.
Wow.
Yeah, me, my boyfriend, my mother.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I've been experiencing this. We can say religion, but it's not a religion. I mean, yeah, it is a religion because we have the culture object. So we have this gonzon, which is where we pray every day, morning and night. Maybe people doesn't know that I'm a Buddhist, and that's something.
That's cool. I can kind of tell that with you as well because you're very. You're focused.
I'm centered.
And I do know you worry as much as me because you care about what you do. Because, and that's kind of, if you didn't have, I always say the minute I stop getting nervous or caring, that's when I have to stop. And I can tell, even, with you care, because when we were talking about your fashion shows and stuff, that you're like, you want everything to be as good as it can be.
Yeah.
But with your karma, you're very like, which is cool, man.
And that's why, this quarantine is kind of like, something that I was experiencing I was just already, starting to slow down, since like a year at least. Because it was too much, so much information all the time, so many things and this and that and the applications and the lights and the music. And then, at some point, you're just like, why? Why?
If you could, from music and fashion, let's try and mix this together. Who are your influences? Who are the people that made you who you are now? Let's start with music. Let's say, if you can pick people that you were influenced, whether it's a DJ or a band, how did we get to the Marcelo Burlon sounds? That kind of.
Well, music, I like everything.
Yeah.
You have to see my record collection, my vinyl collection. It's
when
crazy.
I can travel, I'm coming to your house. You know that, I've told you.
You have to come. Yeah, you have your room there. I started since very, very young to go to clubs. At the age of 9, back in Patagonia, you could go out and drink a beer. Just when you were little, just a boy. So with my brother, which he was older than me, he used to take me to clubs. And then, we started, Erasure, Pet Shop Boys, the Depeche Mode, of course, they were my biggest.
So everything you mentioned then had an electronic influence, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if my first cassette was Sting, the Blue Dreams of the Turtles, whatever. And then because I fell in love with Sting, this blonde boy from London. I was so young and I already, had the sense of, beauty. And all of these bands are related to electronic music. Absolutely. I remember, when I was little, my father used to play Jean-Michel Jarre, which is, one of the pioneers of electronic music. Wow. And I remember that I used one of his tracks on one of my shows 2 years ago or something. So I think electronic music was the main thing. I don't know why, maybe because the 80s or but then, you know, the Argentinian music was big as well on you know, on my life, like really big.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the bands from the 80s, you know, after the military repression, you know, there was many bands coming up, you know, because it was forbidden to listen to English songs, songs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you couldn't, in Argentina, it was forbidden. You couldn't, you know, get any of, you know, the US or English or England music,
Wow.
you know. So after that, of
Yeah.
course, it was like a, you know, if you forbid something to people, something good will come up.
You're right. Yeah, yeah.
Like in this moment where you know, we're living in a very specific, very weird moment, but it's, if you see, like with a different eyes, in a different perspective, you know, things are gonna be amazing, you know. And it's not just to be, yeah, let's be positive. It's not about being
No, you're
positive.
right.
It's fucking being
Yeah.
yourself finally, and you know,
Yeah.
and tell your story, you know, through any type of art or any type of whatever you want to do. But just, you know, I think it's a very special moment, and I think we're lucky somehow to live on this, you know.
It's definitely it's testing. I think a lot of people have different situation. You know, like you're saying, you're embracing it, and you know that's an amazing thing. And you know, like we kind of want reality to resume soon, because I think I want to, you know, our culture, especially music industry, we're used to hugging people, we're used to having people around us, we're used to having our friends around us. This is the worst thing for me, and I don't know about you if it's the same or.
Yeah, about what? Sorry, say it again.
No, I was saying that this lockdown is testing for a lot of people because everyone's in a different situation. But
Yeah.
I'm saying the one thing I miss the most is being in the nightclubs and being around people and having conversations and being close together. You know.
Yeah, of course, we all miss like the
Yeah,
old
yeah,
life, you know, but I think it was enough. Now we need to prepare for something else. We need to be conscious
yeah,
of the others. We need a sense of common. We need to understand that we're not just alone. We're like a community of people,
yeah,
and you know, and each one has to do their own things.
yeah,
But you know, we're like one thing, so we
yeah.
need to
You're right.
respect each other. We need to help each other. I'm helping a lot with this COVID, a lot,
Yeah,
and I don't say it anywhere. I don't, you know, post
yeah.
anything
Well,
that
that's
I'm
common.
doing on this, because I don't like to promote myself through,
No.
you know, the charity, which some
Yeah.
of the designers are doing today, which is
Yeah,
fine.
which is a really humble approach and a very nice approach, and that.
Yeah, and each one do whatever they want with their life, with their things. I'm
Yeah,
thinking like this. I respect the others, but you know, I prefer to do like that on this way.
yeah. You mentioned the bands that you're influenced by, you know, and I've noticed by, you know, you telling me like Depeche Mode and these
Yeah,
other bands, you know, but what DJs influence you? What DJs in, like, we spoke about this. I remember we were talking about the early
yeah,
days of Italy and clubbing, but if you could pick a handful of DJs now that you look to and you kind of go, I got my influence in there and I want to kind of, I love that guy, you know, that kind of, like everyone takes something from somewhere.
yeah. Well, you know, thinking about the beginning, you know, there was one of the DJs. Actually, he played for my 18th birthday anniversary. I mean, we're talking about like ages ago, and he was Ralph.
But he's an absolute legend,
He
and
was a
one of
big
one of
Ralph.
the most beautiful people you'd ever meet.
Yeah, he was very important
Yeah,
for my, you
yeah,
know, for my growing up,
mm.
and because, you know, all the people that were surrounding, you know, all his surrounding were like such a crazy people, and
Yeah,
everyone was so, you know, it was something big, you know.
yeah,
And I think Ralph is one of those, um, you know, who else? I don't really. I mean, I've been in parties like back in the 90s with like all of these guys, you know, like all of them. I didn't know them, man. I was in the dance floor.
yeah,
I was in the dance floor. But, you know, it was just like so important to grow up with them, you know, with that music in that moment,
yeah,
because that's what I am today, you know,
yeah.
through those experiences.
Yeah.
So I don't have one specific name,
No,
or you know, it's just the moment, the era we lived in.
yeah, no, it's just interesting to for your background, and I want to fast forward to your clothing brand, which is huge. You know, your
Yeah,
own clothing brand is named after you. I
yeah,
want to know what made you decide that in 2000, it's 2012, I think you started
yeah.
it. What made
2012.
you have that right? This is the time I'm going to do it. I'm going to start this.
Well, you know, through music, you know, start DJing around. I started like at some point I was playing all over the world, mostly like in fashion parties. You know,
Yeah,
like at Chelsea Hotel in New York, or you know, like B18 in Beirut, or
right.
like all clubs where like all fashion people were moving. And I kind of like became like the fashion DJ at some point, which was so stupid. But at the same time, you know, like the same people, I was playing for the same people in different cities. We were like the same, you know,
Yeah,
like, you know, we used to like same things, same music, same type of, you know, um, outfits or fashion, whatever. And then I realized that these people that were coming like to listen to my music, they wanted something more. Somehow they wanted to be part of this, you know, to belong to something, which was like this kind of like friends moving around the world, like, you know, becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I decided to launch the brand because the kids wanted something more.
mm.
And then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna tell my story through the graphics. I'm gonna tell, you know, Patagonia, clubbing,
Yeah.
you know, the rave, atmosphere. And yeah, and then just I launched this, you know, t-shirt brand,
Yeah,
which became properly, you know,
it
a
was. Yeah,
proper brand.
and the slogan "Country of Milan." Is it Country of Milan? Is
County,
county,
which doesn't exist.
which is a UK. Yeah, it doesn't exist, but in the UK, counties. I live in Kent, and we have counties here, and it's the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
thing. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
found
yeah.
it very interesting because it was like, was that a mistake? Was that like a translation mistake, or is that just him thinking ahead?
No, just thinking properly.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kind of like, kind of like building my own world. You
yeah,
know, that's what I'm doing with, you know, with my brand. When I do a fashion show, you know,
yeah,
you see properly my story, whatever
yeah,
I have in, you know, in my on my head. And you know, and it's just I like to tell stories.
yeah. It's great. If you had a choice now, and it's the same question I get asked, DJ or producer, if I asked you fashion designer or DJ, what would you pick?
DJ.
Nice.
I
Nice.
mean,
I love
come on, it's so, I mean,
that.
it's so emotional, you know, when you play, you know, I played for for the first time in a huge party in Cordoba
Yeah.
at the Forja,
Mm.
you know, with Loco Dice.
What a mate. Was it with Vampy?
Of course, was Pampy. I mean, come on.
Probably one of the best promoters in the world. But
I mean, he really takes care of you, you know,
and
really.
his dad, his father.
Yeah, all of them. I mean, when I discovered that the guy was dancing behind me with
Yeah.
long hair, and he was his birthday, 70 or 80 anniversary. He was dancing. I look
He,
at this guy. I was like, "Who's this guy on Rick Owens in Buenos Aires, in Cordoba?" You know, it was his father. Anyway, I play in my country. I mean, in Argentina for the first time, like in front of like I don't know, 15,000 people. And then, you know, I don't know, I was really, of course, excited because I knew that the people were like super, you know, they knew what we're dancing, you know.
yeah.
They knew what, you know, anyone was playing
Yeah.
because they had that place is special
Yeah.
for electronic music. And it was so special. I was so emotional. I was kind of like crying with Dybala t-shirt because Dybala is from there. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Juventus sent me the t-shirt with Dybala in the back. The one from Palace, you know.
Yeah.
And I was playing with
Gareth.
that t-shirt, you know, in front of Dybala's, you know, neighbors. It was funny. Anyway, yeah, DJing definitely.
Oh, that's
That's the
amazing.
thing.
That's
Yeah.
amazing because you know, you're kind of having the best of both worlds. You've got a successful fashion brand, you've got a successful DJ career, you know, and that's how we met through music. You know, I was always a big admirer of the clothing you put out. But then on top of that, and I know we'll talk about it a little bit, you also created this company called New Guard, which was so successful.
Yeah. I mean, we were like three partners, Claudio, Davide, and I. So we properly, you know, came together first with my brand.
Yeah.
And then because I had a beautiful experience with them, I met Virgil in Paris. He was DJing at some party. And I was like, hey, what's going on with Pyrex? Remember, Virgil used to do Pyrex.
Yeah.
And then he was, no, I cannot do that because, you know, that belongs to a glass company. But he said, I have a project in mind, so I need someone to produce me. You know, that was a Friday night. Monday morning, Virgil was already in Milan. I think after a week, we were like signing contracts because our lawyer went to the university with his lawyer in Chicago. It was, you know, all these coincidences. And then he launched Off-White, and he started with Off-White like that.
But you know, just hearing that last few sentences, you basically unknowingly created another phenomenon. Apart from Marcelo Burlon, you created Off-White, which is...
I didn't create it Off-White.
No.
Like,
I didn't mean that, actually. Let me rephrase that.
No, I saw
the vision. You saw the vision of where it was going.
Because I knew Virgil.
Yeah.
Because I knew him, you know, this kid always like around, you know, Miami or Basel, and then you see him in New York, and then you go to Paris, and then, hey, Virgil. You know, Virgil was everywhere. And the way he was properly communicating with people and you know, you just love him.
What I was trying to say is like me trying to sign for Save Records, trying to sign a new artist, it makes me happy to see someone go and do something special. And that's what I was trying to explain. It's kind of like you not signing, but you finding or like even talking and then the next minute you see someone doing well. It's a nice feeling, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, that's what was my, you know, I used to do this party in Milan called Pinky's Punk.
Yeah.
After Magazzini Generali, let me go back a little bit because it's a nice story. After Magazzini Generali, which became like, it was crazy, new people working with us, you know, it wasn't the same. So me and this guy that used to work at the door with me, which was at the time the Prada PR. So, you know, at the door, we were like people working already in fashion, you know, and we used to bring all the fashion people to the club. So it was like, so me and Valerio, we decided to start another party called I Pretend to Be a DJ.
I was going to ask you this next. This is one of the best things I've heard. And I can't wait.
And that was the beginning of the iPod. That was the first iPod. And then we used to invite people from the fashion industry, people from, you know, MTV, or people from, you know, some actresses or actors. We used to organize iPod battles between two celebrities, you know. And it was funny because at the beginning of the party was me playing, and I didn't know how to play. So I was you know, practicing like every week. And then, you know, I started DJing. That was my beginning properly. And I never play in the house or like alone to, you know, just to practice, always during parties. So I learned properly in the dance floor DJing, you know.
It was when Milo, my best friend, and he's actually my manager as well, he told me about the story. I was like, what a great concept that would be now.
Yeah.
You know, like now, especially with like when we get, like, the clubs aren't going to open straight away. So when we have smaller parties and you have your friends over and they come and bring the music, you know, it's such a great concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So with music, have you thought about doing production? Have you thought about making?
I'm already doing. I mean, I'm doing some. I did some already in the past. I mean, with some of friends of your friends as well. Like, I mean, the first track we did was with the Barking Dogs. These two kids from Milan that they own Serendipity, the record store that you can see in front of McDonald's in Ticinese. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Those kids are amazing. So we did a track, um, which is quite cute, and everyone used to play it, even like on BBC Radio, or like
Yeah.
every DJ used to open their sets with that track, which was Mamarracho. It's called Mamarracho.
Mamaracho.
Mamarracho, which is like clown kind of thing. Because I fell in love with this guy from Chile, and he didn't want me. So for me, he was a clown. So the song is about a mamarracho that pretends to be a macho, but is a mamarracho, you know? So that was the first one. And then I did the track with, that track was also the remix of that track was from Kim Ann Foxman, which
Oh,
is
amazing.
sister.
Amazing.
Sister.
Amazing. Amazing producer.
Yeah. And then the second one was Gualicho with Davide Squillaci.
Ah.
Yeah. That was nice because we did a beautiful project with Davide. We did a track together, of course, and then we designed a t-shirt together, and then you could buy the leather box with the record inside with all the graphics from the t-shirt, the USB with the track, and with our photos and the press release, whatever, and then also the slip mat for the turntable. You know, all in one box.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
that was.
obviously a musician and a fashion designer. It's going to be perfect, no?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then what else I did? Last year we did El Abuelo with Los Suruba, a remix from a song from Rodrigo Gallardo, another South American guy, which I like. That was big because it was on Beatport for like 10 weeks, you know, on the top 10, you know, like beautiful song. And then I did three tracks with Loco Dice.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do with those yet.
Send them so we can get them
You
on
know, we need to talk about that with, you know, Yasin, motherfucker, where are the tracks? You know, I flew to his, you know, to Dusseldorf. I flew twice to Dusseldorf, you know, to sit on the studio, and then we never decided what to do with those tracks, but you know, we had fun at least.
He's another one. He's a great character in the scene. You know,
I just love him.
he's for me. I remember I booked him. I think back in the old days when he was still Chimo Mass's tour manager, and he's exactly the same person in like 2003 or 2004 than he is now. He's very similar to you in the fact that he's very interested in fashion. He's very like, you know, trying to go on the curve with music.
And you know, he comes from the hip hop scene, right?
Yeah. He's very influenced by hip hop.
Yeah, and that makes him more special, I think, on his DJ sets. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in Paris, you were showing me a house that you had got in Patagonia. I think it was in Patagonia.
Yeah.
And you were showing me the videos of a festival that you created for like the locals, and it was unbelievable. It looked unbelievable.
Actually, that festival is inside a labyrinth and a maze.
Yeah.
A huge one. It's the biggest on South America,
Right. Okay.
I mean that festival, which I was also part. You know, the year before I was DJing. Next year, I asked them if I could, you know, make the creative direction of the festival, and then was kind of like the opportunity to bring like a lot of friends from all over the world to, you know, to meet to see Patagonia and my hometown and my people, and you know, it was beautiful because we had like at the beginning the Vendra Barnhart performing, you know, and then there was this girls from Buenos Aires actually from Patagonia called Femina, also, you know, with the flamenco box guitar, you know, three girls singing, super powerful. And then we had Los Suruba, of course, because, you know, part of my family, and it was me DJing. It was just, you know, a beautiful day in the middle of the mountains, you know, with all friends from all over the world, and beautiful artists. And it was raining, you know, people were just dancing under the rain, no fear, you know. This is like
that's the one thing with the Argentinians, especially. I remember playing Mandarin Park. It's raining, it's hurricanes, it's like thunderstorms, but they still dance, don't they? I think I'd have to say, you know, probably the best people to DJ to, Argentinians.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. I
they,
agree.
they're so patient and such, you know.
Yeah, you know, beginning of February, I was in Argentina, just to see my family out of Christmas, out of the festivities,
Yeah.
and then I went there and I played properly in 4 parties in my hometown. I play in the piazza in the middle of my town with like 2,000 people dancing at sunset. And then you see on the left my family, and then on the right my school mates, and then you see all the druggy kids dancing in the middle, and then it was all the hippies it's just crazy. That was my hometown 3 months ago. And then they invited me to play at this festival in the middle of the woods, which was beautiful as well. It was Chancha Via Circuito were performing,
Right.
an Argentinian guy, which I love, and his girlfriend as well. They were performing, and I was DJing, and it was just crazy. It's beautiful to play to your people, That's, I don't know, and it was beautiful because the day after I was just walking in town, and people stopping you and say thank you for sharing your music, and it's just like
They
so
are.
beautiful.
They're just amazing people. And that's every time I get a booking for Argentina, I have this big smile on my face. Because I know that I can go and just have the best time ever. The food, the people, the culture. It's a Latin thing. It's amazing. I'm gonna.
But that's a special place because we are Europeans with a South American flavor.
100%. 100%. I have. With Argentina especially, it's very Italian Argentina. It's a very and it's
Napoli. Come on, Napoli. I mean, Napoli is like just crazy. I love Napoli. Best place also to play, huh? They know what they dance.
I've had some amazing experiences in Napoli. It's probably actually the most similar place to Argentina to play.
Yeah. We're very Napoletani, eh? Argentinians are quite Napoletani, eh?
I asked this question, and I want you to have a think. And if I could ask, and people want to know, 3 things in your career that you're super proud of. 3 things, that you can think about. I know it's hard, but three moments that have changed the course that made you get to a certain place.
Well, first of all, when I got to Milan, that was like a very important moment when I properly decided to. My friend just farted. He just farted, yeah.
Who's there? Who's with you?
I'm with Michele, my best friend. We did like a reality show together. Pekino Express, the Amazing Race, the one that you got with this one. So this quarantine for me is like the second season of that TV show.
Really?
It's like, trust me. Of course, in a luxury house, but at the time we were like in Philippines, like getting crazy, sleeping in the slam. It's just like, anyway. I think it was better in that place in back in Philippines than here. One thing when I got to Milan. Second thing, I think when I started like my own company, because that kind of brought me to work with like people like Alexander McQueen. So I used to do McQueen's parties in Milan, and things like that. First thing when I got to Milan. Second thing when I started my own company, and I think the third thing, of course, is the brand.
Yeah.
But of course, growing up, there is more important things that came up, of course, with the growing up and changing. And I think those 3 moments were like the most important.
You kind of say it very casually.
I mean, generally talking, talking.
You say it very casually, but it's an amazing career that you've had, because, I know you're talking about it, but you should be really proud about it, because
it's about being awake.
Yeah.
It's about being conscious. it's about, you know, being properly focused on things, and always see the others, not
Yeah.
just you. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about all of us, you know. And I think the first thing that a creative person should do is working on their ego, because that's the thing that, you know, takes you down. uh, but it takes you
Yeah.
down, it doesn't mean that your business goes bad or whatever. It takes you down even like as a person, which is
Yeah.
the worst, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, in fashion, you know, it's like that. There is so much ego, and so much racism, and so much homophobia still, and you know, and like diversity in fashion is just like, people are trying, but you can tell it's not natural, you know. So and also because maybe they don't really understand the problem that we're talking about. Like last year, you know, when our prime minister, whatever he was, the minister of the whatever, Salvini, when, you know, when he closed the ports,
Yeah.
so there was no, you know, that was crazy. So what I did with my show last June, in I mean the last season in June, I brought only Afro-Italian people on the runway. So the first generation of Afro-Italians, you know,
Mate.
on the runway. And I'm doing things like this with my brand. Like once I remember, I did my show in Tel Aviv, and the only thing that I asked them was a casting only of Ethiopians, because Ethiopians for the Israeli society are the lowest. So I wanted to bring it up, and give them a chance, you know, to speak, because at the time there was some, you know, some manifestation, some whatever, they were doing some cows there, fighting for their rights. There was
Yeah.
birth control on women's, and so it was, there were all the TVs, the newspaper were talking about the Ethiopians were on my runway,
Yeah.
you know.
So for you, yeah, that was your avenue to try and.
So yeah, I'm trying to, you know, with my brand, with my show, to bring diversity, you
Yeah.
know, and to you know, to the face of people that doesn't believe, or
Yeah.
they don't care, they don't give a shit. It's just like,
Yeah.
just like that.
It's good. You can see it as well, and I can feel it as well, that your passion, whether it's music, culture, fashion, you do it 100%, don't you? You really, you kind of do it. And let's talk about how you're dealing with quarantine. How mentally, because it's so important, because we're very lucky,
Yeah.
some of us. You have the, we have, especially you were saying, I've seen, where you're living in Ibiza, it's beautiful. You've worked hard for it and you deserve it.
Yeah, but you can be in a crystal castle, and
I know.
it doesn't mean that you know
No,
you're
I know. I know. No, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is that, how are you dealing with it personally? Because I care about my friends, and I want to know, like, are you dealing with it okay, or are you finding it hard, or how is it?
I mean, I feel good now. I feel good because the weather is good, and
Yeah,
we've been like closed down in the house for like weeks and weeks because it was
yeah,
cold, and you couldn't go out. But then I started like properly thinking and doing my things and listening to music, and kind of try to read and try to do not smoking too much, weed and stuff like that. But then, you realize that we're lucky because we have this moment where we can stop and think about
yeah,
about now, not about the future, because we don't know what's going to be the future. We don't know,
yeah,
so think about now, what's going on now in your life,
yeah,
in the present moment
yeah,
of your
yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah. No, it's
And the only thing that I miss is my boyfriend, because I didn't see him for 2 months.
is he not with you?
No, we decided to do the quarantine, like, separated, which is good. It's kind of like a grown decision,
Yeah,
because otherwise spending like 24 hours together is just like,
yeah,
doesn't work for anybody,
yeah. No,
you
this is
know.
this is it's I'm very lucky because I've got my family with me, I've got my kids with me, and fingers crossed I haven't had any arguments. And but for me it's been, I would say it's been tough because you don't know where this is going to go, especially with our industry, with clubs, and for us, we're the last piece of the puzzle. We're the last thing that's going to come to fruition, So, all I want to do, we were speaking just before this about you coming to play in my hometown to play my birthday.
Yeah, I was ready for that.
And for me, it's like, I love it so much that I miss it, so much now. And I was speaking to Carl about this last week, and I think it's a nice reset because it's going to make us love what we do 10, 20, 30 times more than what we do now.
Or maybe not, and you just change and do something else.
Yeah, or not,
It's just like we have this, this chance to think about what to do.
Yeah.
What we like to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking about everyone because I mean, we're not in the same situation with that. With people lives in the different situations, of course. But whoever can decide what to do, it's just like, maybe I want to do my record label. I want to do my record studio in Ibiza. I want to do my private party club in Ibiza as well, in my house.
Yeah.
In the basement.
Perfect.
Yeah. We need to go back to dinners and like small parties with like, 10 to 20 people at least,
Are you enjoying, do you think you'll spend more time in Ibiza or Milan?
If I would like to spend more time here or in Milan?
Where would you choose? If you had somewhere to choose, or Patagonia as well, sorry.
I choose the three. I choose the three. I'm going to do the triangle.
Yeah.
Growing my kids in Ibiza in summer and then moving to the grandparents in Patagonia and making some business in Milan and, getting married,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Soon.
Well, listen, we've come to the end. I just want to say,
don't go.
No, we don't have to go if you don't want to. We can talk about.
I'm kidding.
But I just want to say thank you. For everything that you speak about. I've met you a few occasions, and I generally believe everything you talk about is with passion, which for me is the most important thing.
Passion and love.
And I'm sad that I don't get to see you at the moment, like a lot of people. And I just want to say thank you for agreeing to come on and talk to us. And I hope, fingers crossed, you'll be there for my birthday. Yeah,
can't wait for that.
All right.
No, thank you, dude. It was beautiful, really. I really need it also, because I don't like to do a lot of lives, because
it's perfect. I think we're on the same, same tip, and I'm sending you lots of love, and I hope you're okay, and I hope we stay in touch.
We see you soon. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Ciao. Bye. Ciao.
So that was Marcelo Burlon, amazing person, and so as I was saying, and next week we have one of my mentors, Mr. Pete Tong. So the last 20 years he's been interviewing me, so this is a nice change, so I get to interview him. And please stay safe, and I hope you're all well, and lots of love. Take care.